Hi, and welcome to FrazlCast. Climb aboard the GNOME train.
Chugga, 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 chugga.
Please make sure to keep your limbs and experimental instruments inside the train at all times. And now, on with the show.
Hello, Internet. It is Frazley the Awesome Gnome. No, I am not the world record egg account owner, but each week I am joined by awesome people from Azeroth and beyond, and we talk about World of Warcraft and geeky stuff. So this week, we talked about Blockbuster, you know they're still around, gaming, creative projects, and more. Let's use my customized ultra-safe transporter to head on over to meet up with this week's guests. So I am joined by Matt. Hey, Matt.
Hello.
And I am joined by Allie, who makes the Dungeon Fables podcast, as well as now being a new co-host on All Things Azeroth.
Hello.
How are you both?
Good.
Tomorrow's Friday, so really just can't complain.
Oh, yeah. It's Friday. Well, I think I've already made Allie facepalm once, so Epicinsanity, what time is it?
It's time to go around the table.
Great idea. So what have you been up to recently?
Well, it's been a busy week. In real life, I finally brought my dog to live with me. So I have a beagle running around my house now. I think he is currently in his kennel, so he shouldn't be surprising me and knocking my laptop around anytime soon. And then in the World of Warcraft, finally I accidentally got the Exalted with the Tortolan. I didn't even know it was... Yes, I didn't know I was close. I thought I had like 2,000 or 3,000 to go, and I turned in a daily, and suddenly an achievement popped up, and I went, oh, I finally can stop rescuing baby turtles. I was very excited. So I got that. Actually been leveling some other characters. Got flying on my druid. First druid I'm leveling, and I started playing an old character that I finally got to Warlords of Draenor. I know not everyone's a fan, but I got him there, and after he sat at level 80 for, the better part of the last 6 years. So, that was an achievement for him.
Nice. And that's the one that was in Nax for a long time, in the Nax gear.
That is correct. That was my old raiding tune from back in college.
So now you just got to get to Legion and get the Ashbringer.
Yes, exactly. And then I can actually do the Horde quest and unlock all the extra Horde stuff that I can't play because I switched over to Alliance and stayed there ever since.
Good call.
Yeah, good call. It is the best faction, absolutely. What dog did you get?
He's a beagle. I've actually had him for a few years, but he was supposed to be a hunting dog. He's a really good hunting dog when he chooses to hunt, which is only about 20% of the time. He can go find a rabbit and actually track it. The rest of the time he runs around and barks for fun and gets yelled at because he distracts the dogs we're trying to train who actually want to go look for rabbits to track. He's now living with me, so he's not driving my dad crazy anymore, distracting the puppies.
Beagles are good. My family had a beagle when I was growing up, and my parents have another beagle right now, actually, and I love them. They're so sweet. I mean, they're barky and loud at times, but they're so sweet.
They're trainable. They don't have to bark. You can train them. We actually have a family kennel, so I raised and trained lots of beagles. He actually doesn't bark. He just stands there and whines at you pitifully until you pet him.
Oh, nice. I'm reminded of, there was a beagle in a TV show. I'm trying to remember what TV show that was, because Wishbone wasn't a beagle. Benji wasn't a beagle.
Well, there was a Fox and the Hound.
Yes.
That was a movie, yeah.
Copper, yeah.
What was the Shiloh books and movies they made many years ago was also a beagle.
Yes. Well, in Allie, so I heard you went to a new city over the weekend.
Frazley apparently wants me to do a Strawberry City review.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he put it in the show notes. So my wonderful husband makes us breakfast out every weekend because he's amazing. He has a really good recipe to make pancakes from scratch. And we had some strawberries, and he cut them up, and I'm a dork, and I'm easily amused, so I set them up in a little tower and created what looked like a little strawberry city on top of pancakes and put it on Twitter because, again, I'm a dork. For the review, I guess, it was delicious, and I destroyed the whole town and put it in my belly.
And it looked really cool on Twitter, so I enjoyed all the pictures on that.
Yeah, I was one of those kids growing up where you would take the little white creamer thingies at the restaurant, like make towers and stuff. That was totally me. So I basically just relived that by making towers of strawberries into a little city on a pancake hill.
I would do that, and then I would be told by my parents, stop that. And because I've been making noises, and like I almost broke like the salt shaker one time. So
that was last weekend, right?
Yes, last weekend over lunch.
Over lunch. My mom would try to tell me to stop, but then my dad would turn on be doing it too. So yeah.
And then when you're not reading Strawberry Cities, what else are you doing?
This last week, I've been working on the World Quest Weekly at Maine, and a couple dungeons, help out a friend, and island expeditions because I love them. And I'm leveling my little Dark Iron Pally, who's like far behind your tune that's now 120. But she's just shy of 70, so that's really cool. I always enjoy leveling in Northrend. I would level 1 to 100 in Northrend if I could. I'm having a lot of fun with that. And this week I started refreshing myself on Burning Crusade history.
And really good timing because the Burning Crusade apparently just turned
12.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of years.
So both All Things Azeroth and the Burning Crusade both turned 12. Nice.
Oh, yeah. It's a good way to remember it.
So Madros has had a Burning Crusade in podcasting.
Be sure you let him know that. I'm sure he would really like to hear that.
Well, I probably have told him because, like, again, my jokes during the All Things Azeroth chats are legion.
Yes, they are.
Speaking of things that make you head scratch and face palm, well, it doesn't make you face palm, but I watched Black Mirror Bandersnatch. That is an interesting use of the interactive medium. You're watching a Black Mirror episode, but then at any point, you choose what happens next to the characters. It is amazing to see the characters react to that. And I won't go any more than that because I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but it is definitely worth it. I ended up spending like 3 hours. I should have gone to bed at like 10 or 11 and I stayed up till 12.
How do you choose? Like, is it with your remote or do you have to do it on your computer?
I haven't tried on the TV, but they built a whole interactive thing where at points during the show, it'll actually bring up a little bar and you can go between both. So I think I bet they made it work on the TV. Yeah, I was on the computer and it was really cool. And it was so seamless the way they did it. Like when you pressed it, it didn't feel like everything stopped. The thing would be choose one. And while you're doing it, the character would just naturally still talk. It wasn't like hey, choose one, hey.
That's really cool.
And I'm hoping that they do more with it, but I'm also thinking, imagine all the writing that went into it. So someone did bring up an interesting point on the Daily Mirror. They have a Black Mirror podcast, and they said Netflix, with all their data, would know what options people did and didn't choose. So when they're making their next one, they'll know what not to write. So I'm like, that is amazing. And then I finished the final episode of a series of unfortunate events. That has always been one of my favorite series. Harry Potter is definitely like the top series. Like that is amazing. And I'm wearing the Platform 9 3/4 t-shirt. So obviously love Harry Potter. It was really a fun series and it was a great adaptation of the books. Definitely better than the movie that Universal came out with years ago. They did a good job. I won't say that it was bad. It just didn't follow the book exactly. What was amazing is Netflix said, hey, we will give you 3 seasons and we'll give you 2 episodes per book. And wow, they hit it out of the park. Like Neil Patrick Harris, I was wondering how he would do compared to Jim Carrey because I thought Jim Carrey was great. But Neil Patrick Harris, wow.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah. And I loved him in Dr. Horrible Sing-Along Vlog, and now I need to watch How I Met Your Mother. That's that series.
Yeah, I've watched a season and a half, 2 seasons of How I Met Your Mother, and I like it a lot. It's one of those shows that I want to watch in its entirety. Time is an issue. And I haven't watched the latest season of Series of Unfortunate Events, but I watched the other ones, and you're right, like Neil Patrick Harris does a phenomenal job. That guy's got skills.
I think he actually saved the Smurfs movies. He made those actually enjoyable to watch. And then, as you alluded to earlier, I just could not stop playing my Paladin. My Paladin's now 120. I didn't think I was going to be like past like 70 by now, but no, it was a lot of fun. And I actually enjoy Paladins more than I thought. Don't tell Madros.
I'm totally telling him. I mean, he might just listen to this naturally anyways, but I'm totally telling him.
Well, I was telling him that he needed to. I keep hearing all these stories about Frazley fell off a cliff. Frazley got run over by something. And I'm like, well, if Frazley could heal himself or create a shield, Frazley wouldn't get run over all the time. Both my mains, both when I raided before and when I play now, are paladins. So I was like, warriors are pretty cool, but paladins could do some neat tricks. We don't have quite as heavy an armor, but we have some tricks. And then suddenly this Dark Iron comes along. Well, this is kind of fun. You're right. I survived that. I didn't think I was going to survive that.
There were actually times that I would actually see how much can I not cheese the system, but like, what can I do to push the limit? And it was fun trying to really see like, hey, I'm going to grab that mob right there. I'm going to have like a group of like 5 or 6 and like heal, and like only a few times did I die, but it was so much fun. And then, I went on Frazley again, not remembering that I couldn't shield and heal, and I ran away.
Bravely, I'm sure.
Yep. Sir Robin bravely ran away.
Wow. Well done. You're having a lot of fun with that board, aren't you?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
I love it.
So I did think of one thing, though. Anyone who quests in Borealis, in Stormsong Valley, in the Thorn Heart, with the Briarback, without flying, if you get it, this title is only good until you get flying. We need the title Thornbreaker. For how annoying that part of the zone is, how annoying all that is, and like how many quests go up and down, and like trying to find the right chest and stuff like that. We need Thornbreaker.
This is true. That is kind of a pain with all the tunnels and the mobs, and I just wanted to kill the one thing for the daily, and I had to kill 40 things to get to it because I went down the wrong tunnel, and then you're really happy you're not Frazley getting trampled by boars and things.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I've been streaming a lot, so it's actually becoming much easier to stream. I'm almost streaming in longer intervals. There will actually be a year, might not be this year, but I'm going to do Extra Life, and I'm going to do I'm going to team up with somebody because I don't think I could do all 24 hours by myself. But I definitely want to do Extra Life, and it's been one of my dreams for a long time. I don't consider myself a streamer yet because I can't commit to that schedule. And to be a streamer, I feel like you need to have a schedule. You need to commit to it. Mine's just, hey, whenever I get time and stuff like that, then I have to stop it for different things. It is definitely a lot of fun, and podcasting will definitely remain my creative priority because at the end of the week, there will be weeks that I won't be able to stream, but I'm going to make time for this show and the other stuff. All 8 or 9 shows that I do each week.
You should do another one and just make it nice, even 10.
Well, I do have ideas for stuff, and I was looking at a podcast host that would let me host multiple feeds on one. I would keep my current feeds where they are, but have one I could just keep doing stuff. Oh, and speaking of, this was, I just had to pull up this story because this was amazing. So I logged in to my Dark Iron to try to get to like 119 or 120. I find out that there are 10 minutes left on the incursion in the zone. And I'm like, it's like right outside. So I'm rushing around doing like all 4 world quests. And I get 4 of them done. Then the quest is, hey, go over here for this mob. I'm there. I'm killing the final boss for this area. Got to loot the item to do the special thing to finish the quest. It despawns. But hey, I got 4 world quests in 10 minutes. So I feel good on that.
There you go.
And then I am on the Horde side.
So I'm now leveling a High Mountain Taran hunter. He is now level 27. He's over in the Stone Talon Mountains, so having a lot of fun with that. And when I stream, I turn the lights red and I go rock music to be like, yeah, I'm a hunter.
Oh, watching that on video was even watching him do the hand motions while he was doing that was fantastic. He went a little gangster with his hands. It was good.
Oh, you want to talk about emotions? I was in ICC running it, and I was like, okay, so there's an elevator down there. I was on Frazley, so I was like, okay, I've got Heroic Leap. I don't yet know if Paladins have the same thing. No, Divine Shield would probably take away the fall damage. I'm like, okay, I'm going to jump down the elevator shaft. It's right before Cinderghost's Gauntlet. So I jump down. I have Heroic Leap ready to go, and it's green. Okay, click. I must have clicked the wrong area because I instantly died, and like my reaction on camera was just... Heki Taku was definitely right. Game streaming creates memories.
I don't have a warrior, so I've never done that. But just to make you feel better, I have auto run off the elevator. I'd be on my priest. And so I would be like, all right, like I actually get to do the dragon and heal him up and then get to move on and go to the elevator shaft. And I would just start auto running, just expecting the elevator to be there. And I'd only be like half paying attention because I'd do that dungeon raid all the time. And I would auto run all the way down to the elevator. And it like part of my brain realizes that I'm falling and I should hit my slow fall and I'd be okay because I'm my priest. The other part of my brain is like, I'm an ICC again. I wonder if I'm going to get the mount. Yeah, I've fallen to my death a couple times, so don't feel too bad.
Okay, good. I feel better on that. But I love the reaction on camera. It was one of those, like, that was the perfect time to be streaming, was the reaction. And I played it up a little bit for the camera. I mean, I can ham it up sometimes. So, Matt, this is your first show, and I love hearing about, like, gaming history and kind of what you're into, and definitely if you have any funny stories of, like, dying on elevator shafts in ICC or anything like that.
Gaming wise, WoW is definitely not the first game I really got into. I do play a little bit of everything. RPGs are definitely my all-time favorite type of game. But really the first game I really got into, we have to go all the way back to a thing called DOS. And I had to type in commands to get into said game. So my dad bought me MechWarrior 2 for the PC with a Sidewinder joystick. And it was one of the first video games I really got into. Granted, I didn't quite know what I was doing, so he kind of went in the settings and made me invulnerable so I could just run around and blow things up, which was fantastic for me at the time. So you go all the way back there, and I played that and kind of progressed through your normal progression of games over the years. Mostly PC, done console as well. Strategies, one of my other favorites. I played the Age of Empires franchise, thought it was great. Got into some more arena-style games like Team Fortress 2 over the years. But my first experience with an RPG that really got me going, that made me want to play online games, was actually a game called Chrono Cross for the PlayStation. It's actually a sequel to Chrono Trigger that was back on the NES, I believe. So I played it, huge, back when you had to keep putting the CDs in because you got too far in the game. Oh, insert disc 3, which was just like, okay. But there was like 4 or 5 CDs, so it was just like, wow, this is a huge game. I realize now it probably would all fit on half of the technology we have now. But that was my first big RPG that I played, and it kind of got me into the strategy games, the RPGs, and I played through in 64 and all those great games coming up, but always came back to PC. The first MMO I actually got into was not World of Warcraft. It came out, a buddy of mine played it a little bit, tried to get me to play it. I didn't have a job, didn't have any extra money. I was like, I don't want to pay every month. So I actually got into Guild Wars to start with. And I played it for several years before I ended up playing WoW. But they didn't come out with as much. They were going to release a new game, stop doing stuff. Really enjoyed the online aspect. So then in college, my buddy finally is like, try it with me. So he convinced me. So I go out and I think I went to Walmart and I bought the battle chest. But this isn't the new battle chest. This is the battle chest that is the original game plus Burning Crusade. So he says, okay, we're going to get you in there. You can play with me. I'm already on there. I'll help level you. The new expansion's about to come out. So I'm starting to play it. Oh, yeah, this is fun. Trying to learn things. My buddy shows up, helps me with his already max Blood Elf Paladin. So it's just like, oh, this is easy. Hey, go stand over in that corner. I'm going to aggro the entire, Shadowfang dungeon. Just stay there. And I do remember one particular time she was power leveling me to get me armor and stuff. I'm standing there, and fortunately I was geared well enough that there was he missed 2 things in the entire dungeon that of course came to find me. So I'm with my Blood Elf Paladin, fighting them off, going, well, at least there's only 2 of them, since he killed the other, 99.5% of the creatures in the dungeon are now chasing him. And his holy spec, when you could do the shock thing that they eventually got rid of. And I think he wrote hate mail to Blizzard when they changed how the holy paladins worked. So I started playing that back in the very end of Burning Crusade, right before Wrath came out. And so he got me power leveled up, and he's like, hey, my guild needs more DPS. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? And so he keeps leveling me, tells me how to gear him up. So I got my Blood Elf Paladin, and I go and I gear up, and we start doing these big crazy raids where suddenly it's actually, interestingly enough, you just did Naxxramas this last week, your last recording for Dungeon Fables, which I've actually quite been enjoying, going through some of the older stuff that I run around in for fun, since I can actually survive them. And suddenly, fairly new to World of Warcraft, I am being given instructions by a very serious guild leader who has this all planned out. Here's your assignments. Here's what you got to do. Your DPS, here's your job. And so we start running Nax multiple nights a week and clearing one section at a time. And every week we get a little bit further and a little bit further. And so we did that for quite a while. And it was actually my freshman year of college, and several nights a week we'd do this. And that was really my biggest introduction into WoW. I did the quest, but mostly what I did was I leveled up so I could join in the raid. The guild now is defunct. It was on Nazgul. The guild was, I believe called Vengeance. And it was focused on raiding Nax. That was the thing. And we do the big run every week. And so that's really where I got started. Ever since then, on a weekly basis, basically on an expansion basis, I've come back for every expansion for at least a little while and played, caught up, got busy with real life, doing other things. And then I would come back for the next one. And like I did with Battle of Azeroth this time, it was like I kept seeing the previews. And then one day I walked by and there's this guy there, and I'm like, that sweater looks awfully familiar. And it's hard to find World of Warcraft people just in general. We normally kind of blend in. Nobody needs to know how big a nerd you are, that you get on with 24 complete strangers, talk on the computer, and kill animated things, for fun. And then I walk by and I'm like, I could have sworn that guy was wearing a Murloc sweater. Well, the next time I saw him, I'm like, were there Murlocs on the sweater you wore last week? And yes, there were. And that's how I really got started talking to Frazley, because I'm like, I know I've seen Murlocs before, because obviously no matter where you start, sooner or later you have to go fight the Murlocs that are invading for whatever reason to get killed by soldiers. And so that's really where I got into it, and I've been keeping up a little bit in every expansion all the way up. But the biggest thing starting off was doing those big raids in Nax. And it was actually really funny. The paladin that I mentioned that I just got to Warlords of Draenor, it was actually the paladin I played back then. And I stopped playing on him for a while, and I got back on. I was like, I'm going to roll Alliance. My friend wasn't playing as much. He's the reason I played Horde. And I started playing Alliance. And so I've got my current main who's on lane, Alphadar. He's a human paladin. And that's who I play now. But I'm trying to catch him up. And when I got on him, he's still wearing all the gear from Nax. Everything's a drop from Northrend or Nax. He still had the pole arm that probably technically should have been a druid pole arm, but it was much better than anything I had when it dropped. And so that's really what I did. And it was actually really fun this week. I listened to your podcast as it comes out, and listening to Nax this week. Several of those boss fights, you started talking about, I'm like, oh, I remember that one. I'm like, why do I just remember those? Oh, wait, that problem she talked about where someone moves the wrong way and everybody dies? Yeah, that happened. Especially, I can't remember which boss it was. It's the one where you get polarities.
Thaddeus.
Yes, you have to make sure not to shock each other. And I can still remember the briefing. Our guild leader said, okay, here's what you got to do. I think it was positive in front, negative in back. As soon as it switches, you have 2 seconds. Run to the other side. Tank's the only one that's diving through the legs. And so that's what we did. Of course, someone would always go the wrong way, and you die 2 or 3 times before everyone was on the same page. That's honestly, it was really funny because I realized not until later, I really didn't pay that much attention to the actual game because I was gearing up to go raid with my friend when I first started. And then I wasn't paying attention to the raid because I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm going to screw up and have 24 people angry at me because at the time, I had no idea what was going on. I was just taking directions.
Intimidating.
Yeah. Well, and especially when my buddy was one of the primary healers. Probably one of the funniest things, though, I got out of that raid, funny things that happen. It's not what I did. It's what other people failed to do. We had to pick up some outside the guild healers for a run one night. And we had 2 of them that were not in the guild, but they were geared, so we took them. The only problem was they pulled up Healbot at the end of the night, and I was third on the healing list. This is back when paladins had could do the auras, and so I would set mine to heal for every time I did damage. to provide extra healing to the tanks and DPS to take some off the healers. I beat the healers we picked up. And they're like, how did you do that? I'm like, I don't know. Granted, I was doing a lot of damage at the time. So I had good DPS, but I wasn't supposed to be side healing more than the actual healers were. Needless to say, we didn't get very far that night. And then they're like, why is he third on the list? And I was like, I don't know, because my buddy was top on the list as a holy paladin. Then we had a priest, and then there was a retribution paladin, and a druid, and then another healer. And I'm like, I don't know. I was just...
You were just too epic.
Apparently, I was side healing, and apparently the other healers we picked up, it wasn't so good. But we had lots of adventures doing that. And now I spend a lot more time I don't raid as much anymore. But that's really a lot of what I've done with the gaming, with World of Warcraft. So I've been playing it on and off since the end of Burning Crusade. And as I talked with Frazley before, I'm waiting for all the complaining to start with the Classic coming out, because I'm like, they don't understand. You're going to get that shiny new mace. And you're going to go, I'm going to kill something with this mace. And you're going to go, I can't kill this rat that isn't even leveled with this mace because I only have 1 point in it. And they're going to have to go find out why we have training dummies everywhere. And I'm really going to laugh, because I'm going to get on there just to follow people around while they start cussing because they can't hit anything with their epic mace because they never had a two-handed mace before. It's been kind of fun seeing the progression, because I do have a habit of going, well, back in my day when you actually had to pick your specs from a talent tree and you got to choose your talent tree, and if you messed up, you really messed up. It's been fun seeing the progression. Been nice talking to Frazley about it, because we don't have many other WoW players around. So
if you ever want to meet a WoW player, just buy one of the ugly Christmas sweaters on the gear store and wear them around.
You never know.
Leveling Farum, I realized out of all the quests in every zone, Northrend and above, I enjoy the questing. The reason why 0 to 60 is fun is that was redefined in Kata. So what they've learned in Wrath, they took into Kata. BC, I picked BC for Farum, and as soon as I was like, okay, I picked Outland, and I'm going to stick with it till I get to Mop. As soon as Mop was there, I ran for Outland. I'm going to go back and get Lore Master in Outland at one point, but there were so many quests that were like, this makes no sense, and it was just... And that was where they learned from Vanilla for Outland. I'm like, I'm not going to love questing in Classic. I don't think I loved questing in Vanilla. But yeah, looking at your list, there's a lot of great games and a lot of great things. Like I loved my N64. Team Fortress 2. That was fun. And I remember that was one of the first times I thought, wow, an FPS can be not realistic. It can be fun. It can be zany. That's one reason why I don't play Overwatch, because I'm not good at FPS. I love the cartoony games like that, and people still keep asking me for my Apple earbuds in Team Fortress 2. If somebody calls me,
no, you cannot have my Apple earbuds in Team Fortress 2.
I get so many calls. I haven't got one in a long time, and I'll probably get one now because I mentioned it on the podcast.
Yeah, I played it back then too, and so I have a bunch of items that are now marked vintage if I log into the game, because I had them before. The worst thing they did to Team Fortress 2 is when they changed how the heavy worked with Sandwich. You could just get Sandwich out whenever you wanted to. I don't know if this ever happened to you, but me and my roommate would play it, and we would just be demolishing people. So for fun, we'd also get the boxing gloves out and chase people around with the boxing gloves. And then we would go find a nice, convenient spot and have a picnic. And you would sit there eating your sandwich, and basically it was just a sign of, we are totally dominating this game, so we're going to stop and have a sandwich because we're done killing you for a few minutes. And it was 15 seconds for them to run away. And then we would go out and grab a minigun and chase people around for a while. It was quite entertaining, because it would get bad to the point where you're running around with boxing gloves winning, and then you go hop on top of a container and have a sandwich. And it was really sad, because there's two heavies sitting on a container having a sandwich, and you're losing to them while they're eating.
That is awesome. Having a picnic and I'm winning.
And you actually mentioned the N64. I found mine last time I was down at my parents', and I brought it up with me to my house. And I have the original Super Smash Brothers and Star Fox. The Pokemon Stadium, I think, still works. Pokemon Snap where you took the pictures of them, one of the old Star Wars games, and it still works. One of these days, I'm going to get snowed in, and it's going to turn into an afternoon of old video games. That was a lot of fun finding that, and it still turns on and works and everything, and I had to play Super Smash Brothers immediately just because, and I forgot a little bit of what I was doing, but muscle memory surprisingly comes back for the Nintendo 64.
Yeah. My parents still have, technically my dad bought the Nintendo 64, even though that was about the time that he stopped playing and just enjoyed watching me play. Technically it's his, even though a lot of the games are mine. And I want it. I want to take it back because there was a lot of great games on there that I miss and I want to play again. Same thing with our GameCube and a couple other things. He won't give it up. It is collecting layers and layers of dust, which breaks my heart, in the basement. It's in a cabinet in the basement, and it's surrounded by all the junk because that area became their storage. And he still won't let me have it because he's like, "No, I'm gonna play it someday." No, he will never play it. It's collecting dust. I want it back because I miss it, and it's sad. And someday I will convince him, and I'm sure it will probably still work as long as I dust it out.
I'm reminded of Pokemon Snap. You could take the cartridge to Blockbuster and get like these little stickers.
Oh, Blockbuster.
Yeah, there'll be people be like, "What's Blockbuster?"
No, what's actually funny is over Christmas, my sister-in-law was cleaning out, found an old purse. She had her laminated Blockbuster card in the old purse. And she's like, "I found it. I don't think I'm going to be able to use it. I think she said there's one still open in a small town somewhere out west, and the town wanted to keep it alive." Yeah, there's one left, apparently, is what she said. That I guess someone will probably fact check me and send you a list, Frazley, of all the ones that are still open. But apparently she said there's like one specifically that the town's like, "No, we want to keep Blockbuster." So like they patron Blockbuster so it stays open, but it's like the only franchise left because Netflix and everybody else killed them. But it was funny you mentioning that because a genuine laminated Blockbuster card is still in existence.
You remember they had the popcorn? It was like the thing, and the popcorn was inside of it. You put it in the microwave. You didn't have to open anything. I ate a lot of popcorn. I definitely love to eat. And I also love coffee. And I love drinking coffee while listening to podcasts on a walk. And one podcast that I listen to a lot is a podcast that just celebrated 30 episodes called Dungeon Fables. So, Allie, have you ever heard of Dungeon Fables?
Maybe just a little bit.
And you did it on Naxxramas. The timing of that was amazing, that it came out. And then this episode, because Matt, I hear so much about Nax. And it was like, Matt will be on. I want to get Allie on. And then Naxxramas, they were talking about episode 30. So it's like, you like how like the creative like synergy or something like works perfectly, but it's just an amazing timing. With episode 30, you had an interesting creative process.
My interesting creative process involved a lot of not sleeping. So my normal process is during the week, especially in the morning, sometimes at night, if it's a longer episode or if it's one that was revamped, so it takes longer to research. I don't go into work until 11, so I try to do it in the mornings as much as I can. And I try to record Wednesday, Thursday, that way I can kind of edit some on Friday, edit some on Saturday, stay up a little late if I need to, no big deal. But the week was really busy. I worked 3 different 10-hour shifts at work, which were unplanned and last minute. So that took away a lot of my podcasting time and some of the things I had to deal with. And so I did not get my normal time to look it up. So I ended up staying up super late on Friday night and Saturday night. The Friday night was finishing the research for it. I stayed till like 2 o'clock or so. And I didn't quite finish. Like I started falling asleep at my desk. I think at that point I was starting to look up Kel'Thuzad. There was a lot of gibberish on my keyboard because I was falling asleep. So I had to finish it Saturday morning and then record Saturday morning and then edit pretty much all day Saturday except for going out to dinner with my husband. And then after that, we hung out a little bit because we had plans already. And then spent all Saturday night editing until like 2:30, 3 o'clock again. And then I had to finish between Sunday morning and then into Sunday night, except for a raid with my guild. Normally I put it out Sunday mornings, and this time I just had to work extra hard and lose a lot of sleep to get out Nax, because Nax is such a long raid with so much information, so much lore, and I wanted to do the justice it deserved because it really was an awesome raid. that was quite the undertaking. I'm just now recovering from the lack of sleep.
And that's one thing I wanted to bring up, is that there's so much that goes into creative projects. I find it fascinating to hear what goes on behind it, because it helps you understand the love and the work that goes into something that we may see it released on a podcast feed, but we don't see all the hours and hours and hours that goes into it. When I was listening to, I love that you brought up this point. I mean, I think the most haunting one was the haunting voices, and you brought up all the backstory on that. I mean, it brought out so much of the lore, and like every episode I'm learning new things, and like I was actually going through some stuff in Wrath, and like I'm like, I can't wait to hear what's about this dungeon, what's about this dungeon. So I'm excited for what's to come in the future. But yeah, the creative process, it's amazing. You never realize what it's like until you start working on it. And then, like, do you ever have this, like someone will listen to an episode and be like, oh, it was really good, and you're like, but I put all of this work into it. I put all this stuff into it.
Yeah, Nax might be the biggest one for me. Like, I had some other ones that I felt like I put extra work into, either because it was a longer one or just was richer with the lore, like Stratham and Skullomance, for example. I put so much effort into them, and I was like, I hope everyone loves it. And I heard like from a few people like, oh, it was great, yay. I'm like, okay, great, yay. But even I'm still at a point now that I mean, when I started the show, I expected 20 listeners, if that. And I've said it on the show before, I think, that I thought half of them would be guildies and friends. That's not the case at all. Like, none of my guildies seem to listen except for 2 of them, plus my husband. I have all these other people now that I was never expecting. So sometimes I have to kind of let go of the fact that I did put all this work into it, and not like, especially Nax. Like, Nax really burned me out, because just that lack of sleep just really did me in. But it was worth it, because it really was, you know, like I put on, I think, my main Twitter, like, a labor of love. I love these dungeons and I love the lore. So for me, it was worth the time. So even if I only heard from a couple of people that they really liked the episode, like, it was still worth it to me, even with the lack of sleep and everything.
And I'm betting there are a lot more people who have heard it. So you mentioned like your friends and stuff like that. I learned from network marketing, your warm market will usually never listen to you. And no, I'm not going to sell anybody any network marketing products. No, don't worry. Those days are behind me. They're all behind me. It is always weird. It's like your friends like, hey, I did a podcast. Oh, that's cool. But then you hear from somebody out of the blue. I was streaming a day ago, and someone was like, hey, I like your show, listening to in the gym. I was like, it brought a smile to my face. It's really cool when I'm streaming. People will bring up Dungeon Fables.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you, Matt, for listening, because you said you did. And Frazley told me a little bit ago when he was planning on, you know, you being on the show and stuff, that you did. So that's awesome. And thank you.
No, I enjoy it. And actually, I listen to 3 or 4 different podcasts. And actually, the best thing you guys do is get on and share each other's shows. Started listening to FrazlCast, and all of a sudden someone's like, well, I'm on this show. I'm like, I wonder if that's on here. I don't know what the best way to do reviews is. I actually listen to Spotify for all of my podcasts. So there's not really a rate feature, but I've got you favorited on there. So I've got all of my World of Warcraft podcasts there on my favorites list, so I can go and listen to them every week when they come out. But no, I do enjoy it. It's kind of fun, especially this last week. I'm glad you took the time to do it, because I have a lot of memories from it. Like, you're going through and you're talking about, and there was this mechanic and you had to do this. And I'm like, I remember that. I remember that because it killed me like 6 times in one night. And I had like a 600 gold repair bill by the time I was done. And my armor was at 40% by the time we finished for the night. I'm glad you do it. No, I enjoy it. And I listened to a few other of the podcasts that both of you guys have mentioned and been on. I look them up and see, oh, what's this? So that's definitely the best thing I think you guys can do, is it gets it out there. And I'm happy to listen to it. And if I ever run into more people who like World of Warcraft, I'm going to say, would you like dungeons? And I'm going to send them on over to you. I just can't seem to find, there's not enough people wearing Murloc sweaters, so it's kind of hard to find people.
Oh, and it's weird, because I mean, those should be the ones that sell out on the gear store. I mean, like I'm able to buy them every single time. I don't know why people just don't like them. I still want Ian's. He had an amazing Legion polo shirt, like a bowling shirt. I want that.
That was really cool looking.
Could somebody at Blizzard please send me that? I that would be the only thing I want from Blizzard, because I think I've heard somebody from Blizzard hopefully listens to this. Hopefully, maybe magically one day I'll have a bowling shirt appear in the mail, and then that would just make my day.
That would be magical. You know what else is magical?
What?
There are still Blockbuster stores up and going. I had to look it up because I wanted to know. So there's 6 in Alaska. There's 2 in Oregon and 1 in Texas.
Interesting.
Right? That just blew my mind. Assuming that this is up to date, according to the Blockbuster.com website, which is also tied into Dish. They're still there.
Who knew? I didn't know there was that many. They're almost in double digits still.
I mean, 6 of them are in, Alaska, but yeah, that's crazy. I think I threw my card out 10 years ago, maybe. I don't know.
Huh.
It's weird because I thought they would be done with it the same way that you are done with vanilla Dungeons and Raids.
I am done. I love vanilla, and it's sentimental, and it was a good time. I learned a lot through doing that and kind of was able to fine tune how I do this show and kind of work out some kinks and that kind of thing. But I'm excited to be moving on to Burning Crusade because that's when I started the game. I'm excited to be doing dungeons that I started the game with and to be doing dungeons that are a little bit shorter than talking about a long dungeon that was then revamped and then talking about the revamped version of it. It's going to be a good year.
Well, and I'm wondering when they made dungeons smaller. I came back in Cataclysm and I was like, wow, these dungeons are smaller. I'm going to bet Wrath or Cata.
Even in Burning Crusade, I mean, my first one I'm going to be doing is Hellfire Ramparts. Think about Hellfire Ramparts compared to any vanilla dungeon, except for maybe Stockades and Dead Mines. But like compare it to, say, Skull Lament or Dire Maul or whatever, like those two is just night and day difference. So I'm actually taking time this episode to talk about why we went through the portal to do Burning Crusade and into Outlands, and why Outlands is there and how it went from Draenor to Outlands. Like I get that time to kind of explore a little bit more of that because the dungeon itself is going to be so short.
That's awesome. Keeping in with the show's theme, but adding on a little bit of extra stuff and helping the foundation when you then go on with Burning Crusade stuff. Because one thing that I've been impressed with is your lore knowledge. I mean, and I'm like, lore amazingly well. And I think on the ATA, Madros paid you a huge compliment on lore, saying that he brought you on for your personality and your sass, but also your lore knowledge. I'm not going to say that you and Ann Stickney, I'm not going to say that one another is better at lore because you both are amazing at lore.
I'm amazing because of Wowpedia and looking at the Chronicles books and reading books. I still have far to go, and my knowledge compared to some other lore buffs is very small. That's why I like to call myself a servant of the lore. Just a little peon of the lore,
So like a gnome of lore. Okay. It makes sense.
Oh, great. That's great. I'm not going to live that one down ever. All right. So I'm going to be working on my lore knowledge in this year, reading a lot of the Chronicles books very well and very closely.
Well, and of course, there's another podcast where when you give someone sass, you can't live it down. You are a co-host.
Yeah, that is a thing that has happened. It blows my mind still. And I'm still kind of wrapping my brain around it and the fact that it has happened, and it feels a little overwhelming still.
And I'm enjoying the episode. Like Major's brought up a great point on the last episode. Each of you bring a different perspective and something to the game. It really makes it a well-rounded show.
I really like it. They've just been so supportive and it's been a lot of fun. They've been more welcoming than I ever expected. They're great guys. I love them.
Oh, me too. They actually were the first show that I guested on at the podcast, and it was like a can of Pringles. Once I popped, I couldn't stop.
Nice.
One thing that I always find interesting is to see what creative people were as a kid. So as a kid, what did you want to do and what did you love to do? And how does it compare to what you do now?
Well, it's kind of similar. As a kid, for some reason, I always wanted to be a teacher. I was crazy and I liked school and I liked kids. Like I was constantly babysitting and all of that and helping with my little sister and friends of the family's kids and that kind of thing. And I always saw my teachers, talking to each other and I thought they were like really cool. And for some reason, I always wanted to be a teacher or play games full time and like get paid somehow. I don't get paid to play games full time, but I wish I could. And I play them often. And now I'm doing all this podcasting stuff in relation to them, which is really special and awesome. And I'm so glad I'm doing it. And I am a teacher, not elementary as I was planning and actually went to school for and got my license for and everything. But I decided to do early education instead. So I'm with the younger kiddos. So I'm still teaching, but I'm teaching not only the younger children, but I'm also teaching teachers and I'm teaching the parents. And so I'm kind of doing what I wanted as a kid, just not getting paid to play games. And that's okay.
I think that explains one reason why you do it so well, that teacher side. Do you ever find that when you're writing something that your teacher skills come into that, or is it just so natural that you don't think about that?
I've honestly never thought about that. I'm going to now, though. I think all of my time in college and stuff helps me at least have semi-decent grammar. when I'm writing on my show notes until I don't, and that goes in the bloopers track. But
That was hilarious.
well, wait until bloopers 2 comes out. It's gonna be longer. But maybe. I try not to read every single word that I do in my show notes or that I find on Wowpedia or Warcraft Chronicles. Like, I try to summarize it in a way that is understandable and easy and not too long-winded. So maybe that's the teaching aspect of it. That's a good point that I have never thought of. So thank you, Frazley.
It was one of those that just came to me, and then if it was one of those, if I didn't say it, I would forget it because of my short memory.
You and your short memory. Oh, Frazley.
There was one day somebody said that I'm short on jokes. I'm like, that's probably very true too.
You're something, all right.
Well, one thing the community's never short on is answers. I thought it was time to ask the community what their favorite instance is. So on Twitter, Eric Outer says their favorite instance is 4, as in 4 instance. I was like, I love that. That just made me faithful. So I had to add that in. And then I believe it's Neijing. They said Court of Stars. I love that it's set in Soromar City. Loved the changing buffs. And the Nexus, always loved the music and atmosphere. And then Cattlebree said, I thought about this when I was binging Dungeon Fables. So see, somebody else who's listening to Dungeon Fables. And they said there are too many to pick one. However, Vanilla Scholomance was definitely top 3. And I believe I used to get my mage gear there. And then Leo Wild says, that's a tough choice. As a fan of Worgen, I think Shadowfang Keep is particularly cool to me since it is Worgen themed and a big part of their lore. If we are talking least favorite, any Caverns of Time ones that change your race for the entire dungeon. Ugh. So they won't like half of Siege of Dazar'alor. And it's weird with that one. On the Siege of Dazar'alor, just a real quick rant of Frazley.
So there's the Orb of Deception. And with the Orb of Deception, it turns gnomes into Tauren. Then in Siege of Dazar'alor, we become goblins. Come on, Blizzard!
Tauren's like my other favorite race. It's like whenever I do Horde, I love doing a Tauren. That's why I'm liking my High Mountain Tauren. And then Angel said the Soulforge. Bronjam and the music in that instance make it fun. And then over on Discord, Spaz Weston also did a joke. The instance. And we definitely love the instance. Scott Johnson is amazing.
Spaz. That was really smooth.
Spaz and Eric at some point, because Eric said he's going to be playing WoW in the future. I should get Eric and Spaz on an episode together.
Yeah, you should.
Definitely be interesting. And the voice from Chicago said Shadowfang Keep. So 2 for Shadowfang Keep. So Shadowfang Keep is winning this one. And they also loved Wakecrest Manor. They love all the spooky instances. And yeah, Wakecrest Manor. In Final Fantasy XIV, there was Hawk Manor, and I love that one. But I have to say, Wakecrest Manor, oh, I love it. I was going through it recently, like the organ, like someone died, like the organ was, it was amazing. So now we get to us and our favorite instances. So, Allie, I had to make you go first, like somebody else on another show that you're now co-host of sometimes loves to make you go.
So you want to be a jerk too? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't want to be a jerk.
Asking me to pick my favorite dungeon is like asking me to pick my favorite child. That's mean. I don't think I could pick one. I have like maybe 5 I can list. Maybe. So Freehold. Just pirates. I love Freehold. Wakecrest Manor. These are in no particular order. Well, except for Freehold, maybe. Wakecrest Manor. Because again, like the atmosphere, the music, just the ambiance, everything they'd done with that one was just absolutely amazing. And then, there's the classic of Dead Mines. It was like one of the first ones I ever did and just loved it back then. I still do now. Throne of Tides, which isn't as popular because it's one of the Kata dungeons and everyone likes that. But I always felt like I could just clear the place of baddies and then live there because I loved the art and the atmosphere and all of that. Plus that jellyfish would probably make a good bed, the elevator jellyfish thing.
Yeah.
And then Halls of Reflection because just lore and it was so good. And then Forge of Souls because the music in that one and the ambiance and art and everything, but like especially that Bronjam fight was just I turned up music every single time. And I remember when it first came out, I was just in awe the entire fight, just how awesome it was. Just so good. See, and then there's every time I think of like which ones are my favorite, like I listed those, but then there's like 5 more that come to mind because I just love dungeons. So we'll just stick to that list and move on because we're going to be here a long time otherwise.
That sounds good. And there's a whole podcast. Now, cool thing about Waycrest Manor, and because I believe we talked about this around BlizzCon. Do you know the secret in Waycrest Manor? About the music and sounds and how it's tied to certain things? Yeah. And then like you unlock stuff and it plays sounds, different songs and all that. But like, I realized by the time you get to Waycrest Manor, that'll be a soloable instance. So it'll be easy to go in and record all those songs. Yeah, definitely. It's going to be, I'm glad I'm doing it this way where I start with vanilla and then go to Burning Crusade just to go in order. Cause like, I can't wait to get to Wrath and I'm excited about Burning Crusade and everything. But the dungeons in BFA are so good that every time I run them, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get to this dungeon because I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And I'm going to play this voice clip and it's going to be so great. It's just going to keep me going. It's good. And by then you'll be able to look at all the different details and stuff like that. Like I think it was Welling Caverns and you saw like the bones that were still there. Yeah. And like stuff like that. Do you know what would be fun? I've always thought it would be if there's some developer who's listening and they're like, I put that in the game. No one's ever noticed it till now. That's what I like to think of, because how often do we actually stop and look at that stuff and know the story behind it and why certain bosses are there? We're all so focused on leveling and getting through and getting our gear and having fun with friends, which is great things to focus on, but we miss some of those little details that someone purposely put in there. So it's fun to be able to bring attention to those things. Well, absolutely. And Matt, what is your favorite dungeon or dungeons? Honestly, I've never really ran a lot. When I first started playing, I'd run with the guild in Nax. And then I've obviously run the more recent dungeons in Battle for Azeroth because I had to finish the quest and actually do all that. And I do have to say, those of the ones I didn't run when they were current content, I always thought it was kind of fun getting to see the different architectures in places like, I can't remember what it's called. It's in Outland, the prison ships where you go in there. I think it's where you get one of the mounts. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. I enjoyed seeing it because the one thing I enjoyed about playing a Blood Elf in the very beginning was the Blood Elf capital, which no one goes to because it's on the tip of the continent and there's nothing there. But I always liked the elven architecture, and it was the closest to high elves we were going to get. And so I liked going to some of the dungeons that had the elven architecture because you're fighting the Blood Elves that are, that you're aligned against. Probably, and obviously I spent most of my time just running, the raids and Nax, but I do like some of just not necessarily any specifically my favorite, but I like just how the different ones are themed to who controls it and getting to see, going to the different ones to see the different architectures. And I know some people don't like the time travel ones, but I enjoyed going back to see, getting to see some of these cities before they're burned rubble. So not necessarily anyone specifically, but the ability to go see some of these sites before events, even events that I guess theoretically are back, when Warcraft began, and getting to see some of these cities is what I've really enjoyed. So I don't have any specific favorites, but I enjoyed going into them, especially now that I can solo pretty much anything up to and including some Legion on my Paladin now. Just getting to see the art and the style they put into it, because I'm a huge fan of, I read high fantasy, I read sci-fi, and then I play these games, and so I get to go and I'm in a city that, an Alliance capital full of high elves and Alliance soldiers, before tragedy, and getting to see some of those and some of the events. So I've really enjoyed, that's the aspect I've enjoyed. I never rated enough when it was current content to really have a favorite outside of what I ran in Nax. That's one thing I love too, is being able to see the different things. And I love doing some of the scenarios. And like in Legion, I loved when we got to go back and see like Tichondrius and like Whole Moon or Hulk Hogan, whoever that Tarn was in High Mountain. And I guess mine has to be the original Scarlet Monastery. Yeah. I just love the idea that you're going into this cult monastery with like all these people that are under the influence of that. And like you're going in and you're hearing it out. And like just the fights, just like the stories I had in that one. I mean, I just like the hours I spent in that one and getting up to that last boss and then you wipe and then have to go right back up again. And like that one it always holds a place in my heart. That's a good one for sure. And I want that tapper because of that Darkmoon Fair vendor who will then sell you transbox. I need to start running Start Monastery more. Well, I can't believe it, but we are at the end of the episode. So thank you both for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yep. Thanks for inviting me.
So where can we find both of you on the internet?
You're going to have trouble finding me on the internet. I unfortunately don't do Twitter or any of those other things. However, if you're running around on Lane, you can look up my main, which is a human paladin, Alphadar, and I'll be happy to run around and help you whatever. I somehow have managed to stay on the head of the armor curve and have high eye level, so I can run around and help you survive almost anything. So I'll be happy to run around. But otherwise, that's about the only way you're going to find me.
And then, Allie, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at AlliandersK. You can find my show on Twitter at Dungeon Fables, or here at dungeonfables.com, or wherever you find your podcast. And you can also find me on All Things Azeroth every week, wherever you also find your podcasts.
And I think with that, I'm going to head back to Ironforge because I think I want to go now and
level some more by High Mountain Tauren Hunter. Just have a lot of fun with that.
Well, I am back at my home of Ironforge until we one day reclaim Nomergon. Yeah! This has been another episode of FrazlCast. So before I go off to level my High Mountain Tauren, I wanted to give a shout out to my new Twitch subscribers. Thank you to Amanda Sloan for the sub on Twitch and the bits as well. And thank you to Michael for the sub. Every bit and sub on Twitch helps improve the show and give me creative motivation. This show is a labor of love every week from me. Well, I am Frazley, and you can find the show at gnomepodcast.com. Until next week, be awesome.
Unusual rule of war leads to alliance arrest. It's the overly dramatic news. I'm Hunts the Wind. As the Horde and Alliance struggle for control over both Zandalar and Kultiris, adventurers from both sides have swarmed to areas of concentrated combat. Unlike early in the campaign when it was rare to see the opposite faction unless you went looking for them, these invasions cram hundreds of combatants into one area for 7 hours. However, given the rolling window that these invasions adhere to, adventurers often find themselves scrambling to complete their missions before time runs out. This was the situation faced by Barder Scragglebeard last Tuesday, when he got stuck in traffic coming home from work and logged in with only 30 minutes left on the clock. He had just completed the 4 quests in Drusvar with 10 minutes left when disaster struck. The power went out in his neighborhood. Being a resourceful dwarf, he quickly logged in via laptop and cellular hotspot and was able to finish the final mission. But when he went to turn in the quest, he discovered the Borealis constable was waiting for him and he was placed under arrest. Apparently, the Borealis Tinkers Guild owns a monopoly on using electrical power storage devices in any fighting on Kultiris, and Barter's use of his laptop put him in violation. And so, instead of gaining a piece of 370 gear, the unfortunate dwarf found himself stuck in the Borealis stockade. The charge? Assault and battery. Broadcasting across all Azeroth, I'm Hunts the Wind. Check out the archives at overlydramaticnews.com or follow me on Twitter at Hunts the Wind.
Buxley is the quicker picker-upper. Buxley here to answer your World of Warcraft questions in this edition of Ask Buxley. This question is about Kodos. Velpa asks, Dear Buxley, I've been hearing people at the bank talking about a Mary Kodo, but I haven't seen one yet. Do you know how to find this mount? Mary Kodo? Oh, you mean Marie Kodo. Oh, that's not a mount at all. That's a very special Kodo. If you can track down Marie Kodo, you can ask for advice about how to clean things up. I've tracked down Marie Kodo several times just to get advice about how to get my bags and bank cleaned up. If you go to Marie Kodo, the first thing she'll advise is to get all your armor you have and dump it into one large pile. And if you look very carefully, you'll see your very favorite pieces have absorbed part of the happiness they bring you. You'll get to see little twinkling lights all over the armor. These are joy sparks. If you have any joy sparks on any of these pieces, it's a sign to keep it. Most of Marie's advice is really great, but some of it isn't so good. Like her techniques for folding. Now, be nice when this is being explained, but do not take this advice. Marie's folding technique is to jump up and down all over those armor pieces until they're folded up so small you can fit almost all your armor into one bank slot. This renders the armor pretty much useless, so don't do that. The same thing about crafting reagents. You work hard to get all those fish, Don't jump up and down on them. Now, there are a lot of people that don't know this, and you can always tell the ones that have been talking to Marie and followed this advice because their boots make squishy noises. Thanks for your question. If you'd like to know what I've been up to every day, follow Ask Buxley on Twitter. If you like the segment, please take the time and rate it on iTunes. Time is money, friend!
Welcome to the Frazley Report, a short broadcast by me, the Awesome Gnome, about the World of Warcraft. This is the report that the Gnomeregan Guardian says is the very best gnomish news program out there. And the Ironforge Daily Informer exclaims that I, Frazley Sparkspan, have my fingers on the pulse of Azeroth. My friend Tosh Mifune of the Halfway Report brought my attention to these reviews, so since I have my pulse on the news, let's get to talking about it. Bungie have announced that they have acquired full publishing rights to Destiny. Right now, Destiny 2 will remain on Battle.net, but the destiny of future games is uncertain. Will they be causing a discord? Will they be using the new misty power of Steam? Or will they be epic and use the same launcher and potentially the same social infrastructure that allows players on PC to floss the night away in Fortnite? We'll find out. News has come out that Mike Morhaime will only stay on as the strategic advisor through April of this year. Obviously, this has sparked the tabloid media to announce that the death of Blizzard is upon us. All of this news is definitely troubling to hear. But this gnome was thinking that Morhaime wouldn't stay on that long anyway. This was a transitionary role. It can be scary to see news like this, on top of all the news we've been hearing about. The Frazley Report will be here to deliver the news as we go into this storm of uncertainty. Speaking of scary and uncertain things, I was leveling my Dark Iron Paladin Fall Room, and the Naga kept talking about how my bones will feed the depths. They were salivating about how they want to taste my blood. They kept asking for the seas to swallow me. I think the Naga are going through a food shortage. Things must be rough for them, and maybe we should think about sending them some relief aid. I mean, come on, their harpoon launchers are of a very poor build quality. I kept attacking them for a quest, and the things fell apart very violently. I am surprised that no one has gotten hurt operating them. And finally, Wowhead reports that 8.1.5 will continue the player choice through questing that was introduced in 8.1. I won't go into any specifics, but it is incredibly fascinating that they are finally doing this. I love the multiplayer endings in games like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect, Life is Strange, Beyond Two Souls, and others. And do you remember those awesome, cool Goosebumps books where you could choose an adventure? That was so cool. It will be exciting to see what becomes of this. I'm already a fan of that, especially in Battle for Azeroth. Your choice of faction matters. And in Legion, you had characters respond to you differently based on race, faction, and class. Well, I have no choice but end the broadcast here, as we have run out of time and gone through our news stories. Until next week, be awesome. Oh, Gnome, I'm feeling very hungry. Should I go and eat some Gnome Loops or the new Lucio's cereal? Tell me, which option should I pick? Yes, I'm talking to you, the listener, right now. You get to decide my destiny. Which is it? Okay, I will go eat some Gnome Loops, as the choices really aren't that different or important. Plus, I don't have a fancy multipath system like Netflix does for Black Mirror Bandersnatch. That would require a lot of extra writing. I would probably forget a timeline, and you'd end up with the Frazley Dwarf Report by Protection Dwarf Paladin, who makes a rating news show. Hasn't science taught us we should never play with time travel?
Oh, Ludra the Mage here.
And I'm Ben the Mage. Okay, so you have a stack of 400 pet bandages and a wry smile on your face. What are you planning on doing?
Okay, so did you ever see that movie, The Sound of Music, where the lady makes clothes out of curtains?
Yes.
Well, I thought I'd try with pet bandages.
Really?
No, there's a big spill, and I'm trying to clean it up.
Try again.
And it's a surprise! I just need to borrow your Gareth and Hearthstone, and no, I won't throw it at you.
Okay, sure. Well, while Ludra heads over to my garrison for some reason, make sure to check out Battle Pets episode 133, TPing Your Garrison, where we talk about news, boss battles, and... Wait, TPing my garrison? Ludra!
Hi, Ben! So, your birthday's in April, so don't go to your garrison till then. I left you a surprise, and I know you won't visit there before then, so I'm pretty sure it's safe.
I'm afraid to ask.
So no!
FrazlCast is a fan podcast that covers Blizzard games. We are not affiliated with Blizzard Entertainment. Views expressed by the host and guests are their own. Some of the art, music, and sound effects come from Blizzard Games and are owned by Blizzard Entertainment, Inc. No copyright infringement is intended.
Want more awesomeness every week? Visit weeklyawesome.com. Weekly podcasts to make your week better. Remember to smile and be awesome.
This show is brought to you by Dragon Powered Studio. Find more at dragonpoweredstudio.com.
I can kick out Fiverr. Welcome to FiverCast, the show all about Fiverr.
Ooh.
Fiverr in the news. Let's see. Let's look for. Oh, Fiverr plays an important role in digestion.
That'd be a whole different podcast that I don't want to really be a part of, per se.
Yeah, that's not what I signed up for.
Yeah, but I appreciate the invite, Matt.